Welcome to our second annual Humanities Debate. My name is Archibald. I'm Dean of the Faculty. Last year we debated the resolution, "The Book is Dead." And this year we take on a similarly controversial topic in that high-spirited tradition of parliamentary-style debating found in universities, and high schools, and occasionally parliaments around the world. What you will see is not like question period, but something more theatrical, less like professional wrestling. And while there's a little performance and good-natured sparring, there are also some real societal issues underlying our themes. There are many U.S. states with English-only laws. The EU is considering adopting English as a lingua franca, and yet monolingual brains are in the minority on this planet. Of the 6,000 languages still found, English is just one of many. We really want to spend all of our time in that one room of the linguistic mansion. Today, we seek to have some fun, be argumentative, and perhaps over the top. The opinions and positions espoused by the debaters are not necessarily their own. Please do not pillory our speakers for presenting them. Without further ado, I present to you the Speaker of the House, the somewhat Honourable John Archibald, member for the Canal Quarries. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out on short notice to this special session of the Parliament of Humanities. As you know, this is a legislature that has never been prorogued, is nimble enough to spring into action to pass laws to address pressing societal needs. Now, admittedly, there have been some distractions in the press these days about our Parliament due to, say, the housekeeping allowance assigned to some of the appointees of the upper chamber of our Parliament, claiming to do East Coast literature while living here on the West Coast. The Martlet has leaked some documents which allege to show that we use some central administration money to create voter lists of targeted majors and other faculties to lure in humanities, but I deny these allegations categorically. And I've asked my deputy speaker to look into them. The slanderous remarks can be handled by strategic resignations already underway, and we will move on undaunted. Today, we debate the following resolution. Be it resolved that it would be better if everyone spoke English. I will remind the members that all speeches must be addressed to me, and I am referred to as Mr. Speaker. Breaches of protocol will result in a raised eyebrow, escalating to an icy stare, and culminating with ejection by the Sergeant-at-Arms, the Honourable Dr. Banerjee. She has Judge Merrihew's sword and received the webinar on how to use it. The speaking order will be as follows. The Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Dr. Fulton from English, member from English, will speak for 5 minutes. The first opposition member, the Honourable Dr. Carlin, member from French, will speak for 5 minutes. The first government member, the Honourable Dr. Bowman, member from Greek and Roman Studies, will speak for 5 minutes. The Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Dr. Yekelchyk from Germanic and Slavic Studies, will speak for 7 minutes. Then the Prime Minister will conclude with a 2-minute speech. After this, we will entertain statements from the floor. You are the floor. These statements must be brief, a maximum of 1 minute. I will be timing. And you must state clearly whether you are speaking in favor of the resolution or in opposition to the resolution. These statements must be addressed to me as Speaker. After I bring the statements portion of our debate to a close, the question will be called and a vote will be taken by a show of hands. A simple majority will pass or defeat the resolution. I would remind you that this debate is being recorded, and by asking a question in this public venue, you are implicitly agreeing to be recorded and having your remarks made public. There is a handheld mic that I will bring to you if you raise your hand to make a statement from the floor. Are there any questions from the House before I open this debate? Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. We're not here to pass laws just because. It would be better if everyone spoke English. What do we mean by this expression, and what do we not mean by it? We mean simply that English can be shared by people who speak no other language in common. Using English would be better than mutual incomprehension. That's why we recommend English as a lingua franca, and we think there are good reasons. For making English a lingua franca for the world. By everyone speaking English, we mean people using English as a convenient language where they share no other language. Anywhere differences between groups speaking different languages have been made more bitter by linguistic difference, and to be sure, where English is not being one of those languages, English can be recommended as a neutral language. Where people need to cooperate and where people wish to pursue shared goals, English can be used as an alternative to other languages freighted with histories of misunderstanding and conflict. Lots of people already know lots of English. Let's take advantage of that. But let not English speakers become complacent or triumphalist about the current situation. Language is the best show we put on. Languages are the riches of humanity. It would be better if everyone spoke English in a multilingual world where we value the health and vitality of all languages, especially endangered ones. That's what we mean when we say it would be better if everyone spoke English. Now, what this resolution does not mean. It does not mean that everyone should all speak the same English. In its most vital uses, English is spread because people want to use it, and it is varied according to who those people are, what other languages they speak, what they have used English to do, and who they have used it with. That is why when we speak of English in a global context, we speak of world Englishes, plural. We expect that the variety of English will increase as English is more widely used. This resolution does not mean that users of English shall all be regulated according to one common standard. There has never been an Académie Anglaise, nor should there be. We need no self-appointed lords of English usage telling us what to do and especially what not to do. Will Englishes in different parts of the world become mutually unintelligible? Possibly. But if they begin to do, we can deal with that. To presume that chaos will come again if we pay insufficient attention to a single common standard is to project onto the future a fear that we should question. It's likely a symptom of some current anxiety or part of a moral panic we should resist. Some of you can still remember when CB radio devastated North American Englishes. We got over it, and our Englishes have apparently survived. 10-4, good buddy. We are told that English dominates the internet. So much the worse for English, some might say. We need to be careful on this topic, not to anthropomorphize English and give it powers and abilities that no language can exercise. It is users of English, too often lazy and self-satisfied ones, who have used the language so widely in electronic communications. When we point to how widely English is used now, we do not mean to bully anyone into using it who does not want to. Assertions that imply privileged knowledge of the linguistic future, predictions of a one-world English, often do this. We need to recognize two important principles. Widespread use of English does not mean linguistic uniformity. No one speaker's variety of English is all there is to the language. New varieties of English develop features that make users of longer established varieties uncomfortable. Well and good. We don't set our cell phones to Greenwich Mean Time, nor should we set our English by how we think they speak in London or New York or even in Toronto. Widespread use of English does not mean cultural uniformity. Experience shows that the spread of English has not led, inevitably, to the dominance of cultural practices already developed in that language, however much English teachers might have wished it would. For example, and I apologize, I must use the S word here, what about the English language icon of icons, Shakespeare? Years ago, the Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi said, "I learned English to read Shakespeare. I forgot the English, but I remembered the Shakespeare." Through many media today, we are learning that the world considers Shakespeare too important to be left just in English or to be left just to English speakers. Finally, let me cite as friends to our position some supporters D'abord, l'ancien Premier Ministre du Québec, Jacques Parizeau. Did M. Parizeau think an independent Quebec should not speak English? Pas du tout. In 1992, he told Bedtime magazine, "I'll beat the rear end of anyone who can't speak English. In our day and times, a small people like us must speak English." En anglais, it would be better if everyone spoke English. Early in Oscar Wilde's short story, The Canterville Ghost, the British narrator declares, "We have nearly everything in common with America nowadays, except, of course, language. Oscar means English. It would be better if everyone spoke English. If the Americans can manage it, of course." And how about the English? Let's hear from George Bernard Shaw speaking to Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady. Why can't English teach their children how to speak? Speak English, he means. It would be better if everyone spoke English, including the English.
Dr. Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is it possible that the honorable members of the government believe English is superior to the other languages of the world? The resolution, "It would be better if everyone spoke English," suggests an impulse to dominate that is not healthy for world peace and stability. If we accept that English is not an inherently superior language, then the only raison d'être of the question before us is a search for an international lingua franca, as proposed by the Prime Minister. But even if a lingua franca were desirable, a highly problematic notion, why should that lingua franca be English? In terms of native speakers, English is far outdistanced by Chinese. There are well over 1.2 billion native speakers of Mandarin and Cantonese alone. There are over 400 million native speakers of Spanish in the world, as compared with 375 million for English, with Hindi close behind. What we can say with certainty is that all of these dominant language groups continue to grow and to evolve as their users adapt to changing environments. Why privilege English or any one language? English may, at this moment, be the world's most spoken language with around 1.5 billion speakers. Researchers admit, however, the difficulty of establishing meaningful statistics because the very notion of speaking a language is a slippery one. What degree of fluency constitutes the ability to speak English? What is lost when language learners are expected to express themselves in a tongue they may know only at a very rudimentary level? The proposition, "It would be better if everyone spoke English," assumes that the Prime Minister could wave his magic wand and put an impossible ideal into effect. But even if such a pipe dream were possible, in our view, it would be a reductionist nightmare. No one language should be considered de rigueur for all of the world's citizens. On the contrary, as Umberto Eco says in The Search for the Perfect Language, each language constitutes its own unique way of seeing, organizing, and interpreting the world. Each language contains a certain model of the universe, a semiotic system of understanding the world. Anyone who's studied language knows that some words and concepts just don't translate well and don't possess the communicative power they retain in the language of origin. Language is an extension of culture, as the Prime Minister admits. Having one dominant language wouldn't foster the development of cultural understanding across the globe, this despite the fact that English accommodates foreign expressions like lingua franca and de rigueur. These are in fact signs of the inadequacy of English. Asking everyone to try to use English is asking the world to impoverish its communicative capacity. And as far as the internet goes, the famous Socratic